Garden Fork is brought to you by Brushy Mountain Bee Farm, beekeeping supplies, candle making, soap making, wine and mead supplies. Learn more at brushymountainbeefarm.com. And by Allison House, providing severe weather data when you need it. AllisonHouse.com.
Hey,
You are late, sir.
I'm sorry. There's a good story, though.
Okay. Are we recording?
Yeah, of course we are.
Okay, good. Let's hear it.
I ran down to one of my local, my neighbors who sells eggs. We call her the Egg Lady. She has a little stand right out. She has a beautiful garden. Her name is Priscilla. And I just happened to hop out of the truck, and she was there, and she likes to talk. And so I said, hey, I had some ramps that you gave to Bill, and they were delicious. And she says, oh, well, come on in here and let me show you. She goes, are you in a rush? I was like, well, I kind of am. And I really couldn't say no because she gave me a whole bag of ramps that were kind of past their prime, but she said, you can plant these. And I was like, wow, I can plant these in my own woods, and I won't have to be foraging in other people's woods. So, out of courtesy to her, because she was giving me these fairly sought after plants, I couldn't really say, I got to call at 10 o'clock, you know?
Right. Okay. Well,
So
it's
is that
excused,
okay?
but it's on your permanent record, however.
I've got a really bad permanent record, man. Just look at my credit report. And I was like, look at the time. I got to go get Mike, you know? So I ran in the house and I threw the dogs out in the yard. And here we are.
Okay. Well, do you need to gather yourself? Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. Did you get the list?
Yeah, yeah. Should we do the show opener first?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's start the music. Hey everyone, this is Garden Fork Radio. I'm your host, Eric Rochow. We also have our friend Mike here. Hey, Mike.
Hey.
And we always do this at the end of the show, but maybe people don't listen to the end. So I wanted to say at the beginning, there's a couple ways to keep track of us. You can join our email list, and you go to gardenfork.tv, and there's a button at the top. If you send us an email, news@gardenfork.tv, you'll get an auto response with a link. You can friend us on Facebook. We have a fan page for Garden Fork. And you can follow us on Twitter, Garden Fork TV on Twitter. So there you go. I got the little plugs out. So welcome.
Great. Okay, we've got a big list, and this will span a few shows, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're in charge of the organization.
The list, yeah. So farmers market report. Yesterday was opening day for us, so it was like opening day at Wrigley. I mean, it was a big deal for me. I was all excited. So we
Cool.
got up early, and my wife was all excited because she was going to be able to bring the dogs. And we always liked when people brought their dogs, and so now we were going to have our dogs there. It was really nice. The lilacs are in bloom. We pulled up. It was there were about 20 vendors. It was great. But you wonder. One of the things I was wondering was normally I miss opening day. Normally I get around to getting there around June sometime, and I was wondering what was going to be at the farmers market.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Especially this early. Ours is in Woodstock, Illinois, and you would recognize have you ever seen the movie Groundhog Day?
Yes.
Yes, that they filmed that on the square where our farmers market is.
Oh, all right. Cool.
Yeah, so if you want to see what I'm seeing, that's you just watch that movie. So I have a list of stuff. I was scribbling notes as I was walking around, and they had baked goods. They had a couple people there with bread and desserts and stuff like that. One guy was selling popcorn, not popped popcorn, but corn for popping.
All right.
Yeah, they had infused oils. Some people had greens already, like arugula and French sorrel. Which are you familiar with?
Yeah, yeah. They love the cold weather. There's actually a kind of arugula I bought from Fedco Seeds. It's called icebox arugula because that stuff will grow right through the winter sometimes.
Yeah, and I'd never had French sorrel before, and this is one of those situations where I'd never heard of it before. You walk up and you tell them what is this, and they give you a little taste of it, and it was interesting. It was the leaf was a little thick, and it was soft though, and it was kind of sweet and tangy. It was a really interesting new flavor, and they said they normally just mix it in with their salads, but sometimes they use it in soups. So
Yeah, that's the default, I think, is to use it in soups. If you're at your farmer's market or you're even at your the grocery store, and if you have a smartphone, my friend Elise has a site called Simply Recipes, and she has an iPod version of it. So, or you could also, it's simplyrecipes.com, by the way. Or you can, Wikipedia has a mobile version as well, so you could type in sorrel into the mobile Wikipedia uh, thing. You use Safari, whatever web browser you have, and it'll tell you about sorrel. So it's kind of a neat encyclopedia in your palm,
yeah.
in addition to asking the farmer what to do with it.
So there were garden starters. I didn't even think about that, but that makes all the sense in the world. They had all the tomato plants out there, and everything else that had been started for people to start their gardens. Um, I bought some tomato plants, and I wish I had the names of them. I should have written those down,
Huh?
but I didn't. They were the hybrids, or the what do you call them, the ones that have been around for a long time.
Oh, like big boys or something, or
Yeah, no, when you hand them down from generation to generation,
oh,
that
the
word is
heirloom.
heirlooms. Thank you. Yeah, they had a lot of those, and so I picked a few, and they always have crazy names, Granny Mays or something, and uh,
Mortgage lifter, Radiator Charlie's mortgage lifter.
yeah, stuff like that. So I bought a few of those, some cherry tomatoes, and one of them, it makes tomatoes that are like a pound,
Yeah,
and that yeah, well, I don't know if I'll be able to pull that one off. I hope I can, but the let's see, there some people, flowers, not just for planting, but they already had some cut flowers
some
out
cut flowers.
there.
Yeah, I bet they were from a hothouse, probably.
Yeah, I didn't ask. I'm not a flower guy. So there was they had some young rhubarb,
Uh
and
huh.
yeah, onions,
Yep.
but yeah, and they were calling it early garlic, which I'd never seen before.
Yeah,
So
you can pull garlic early, and it's like a garlicky scallion.
yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. Um, and that was neat. Oh, they were doing a raised bed demonstration, how to do raised beds
Uh
on the
huh.
square. So that was really neat, and that was the first time I'd seen that. And I went and I looked at the website. You could go to woodstockfarmersmarket.org, and they have a whole list of all the different things they're going to be doing.
Oh, cool.
Composting, planting cutting gardens, designing a perennial garden was some of them, and just every week they'll have something new. But there were a lot of crafts and soaps, and our cheese people were there, and they were selling meat. Oh, and fresh eggs. I bought my first dozen farm fresh eggs.
Cool. You should try, if you have any store-bought eggs in the fridge, you should try frying up each one and take a look, just sunny side up.
I did that. Well, I didn't do a comparison yesterday. I just cooked myself one when I got home, and it was exactly as you described. Just the bright orange yolk, and just really high, off the plate. It was really good.
I am the dispenser of knowledge, Mike. How would you, did you doubt me? Did
No, no,
you?
trust but verify.
Yeah, like I know anything.
But I also, from the same people, I bought a free range chicken. They were selling chickens as well, and I made that last night. That was really good. But they had folk music going, and there was a hot dog cart, and
Oh, I love
uh,
hot
I,
dogs.
yeah, yeah. And so I try. Well, here's a test. Do you know what's on a Chicago style hot dog?
Celery salt and cucumber and relish in a particular kind of bun.
Oh, there's also, you're forgetting onions, and what else? Pickle relish, and let's see. Oh, there's mustard. It's one
That's
of
right,
those things
yeah.
that, if yeah, if never ketchup. If we ever went to war with other states, if Chicago went to war, that's the test we'd use. What's on a Chicago style hot dog to root out spies?
Yeah.
So I try to buy a little bit from everybody, just because I like supporting what's going on out there. But they were making dog treats, or they had dog treats, and this one was really kind of weird. Um, Dehydrated sweet potatoes. Had you heard of that before?
As a dog treat?
Yeah, the
No.
pups were crazy for him, and he didn't do anything to him. He just sliced up a sweet potato and dehydrated it, and it makes it really crunchy. It's kind, sweet potatoes are a little bit fibrous,
Yeah.
so they had to work at it. And I asked if he salted them or anything like. They said no. He just dehydrated them, and the dogs loved them. So
Wow. Well, I have the food dryer gizmo. I'll have to try that.
there you go. And so I bought all this stuff, and the I talked a couple weeks ago about my method. I would get there and then walk around and look at what everybody's got first.
Right, you scope it out first. Yeah.
Scope it out, but there were a lot of people there, so it was hard to remember what was where. Also, something derailed me, and that was we brought the dogs.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks their kids and dogs are the prettiest in the world, but our dogs are very pretty, I think. And
You have to
Weimaraners,
send us a picture of them.
I do. I'll get that up
In
soon.
addition to everything else you're doing for me for free.
The
We got to figure out a way
there
to pay Mike, by the way.
The Weimaraners are, I don't know. I guess they're just rare enough. People don't see them often enough that
Yep.
they get excited when they see them. But we would get 5 feet and then stop, and people would pet the dog and visit and ask us questions. Then we'd move down one more vendor and then stop, and we'd be there. And at one point, we stood in one spot for 20 minutes as people met the dogs, which was
Yeah.
great. We really want people to meet the dogs, and the dogs to get used to people and being around things like that. But it made it tough. Next time, I think we'll split up. Leave my wife because she's the dog lady, and, and I'll go get the stuff and then come back.
Yeah, dogs just make people happy. They're just, I mean, Labradors are pretty pedestrian, but the two yellow labs in the city, and they really like kids, and they know that strollers have food crumbs in them, so all of a sudden they're sticking their noses and some people get a little like, oh, what's going on? And I'm like, just relax. But um, most people love it, and like I said before in a previous one, they're nice icebreakers. It's how Lynn and I met actually, was because we both had dogs. We met in the park, and of course she would not talk to me at first, so smart of her. But I love that kind of thing because we actually, when we're at a farmer's market here, we bring our pups, and it just makes everyone happy. So
Yeah, I had a note here saying if you want to meet your neighbors, get a pretty dog and sit in public places.
yeah,
Because I at one point there was a rummage sale at a church just up the street from there, and we went there, but we couldn't bring the dogs in, so I sat out on the steps while Donna was inside shopping, and I don't know how many people stopped just to talk to me and ask about the dogs, and ask if we were from around there, and it's great icebreakers. And you don't have to do anything; you just sit there with them, and people walk up.
yeah. I think Weimaraners also have a reputation from Mr. Wegman. Is his name Ralph Wegman?
Uh,
Eugene
uh,
Wegman? Mr. Wegman and his
'cause
dogs. He would take all those photos and had a series of books and calendars and stuff like that. So
I think it's William Wegman, right?
there you go, William Wegman. I used
Uh,
to know where his studio was in New York. I never worked. I was a photo assistant in New York City, and I never worked for him, but I knew where his studio was. So that's my
the
brush with fame. One of several. I could tell stories, but we could make
uh,
that a whole episode. Eric's
yeah, I was gonna
brushes
say
with fame.
we're gonna have to drag those out of you.
The day I stood next to Sylvester Stallone, who is really quite short.
Well, all right.
Okay, let's get back to food. So,
Yeah. The so that was the farmers market report. I had a lot of fun, and I'm hoping in upcoming episodes just to I won't go through everything that I see, but if something's new and something I tried. Oh, one I almost forgot. There's also a butcher right up the street,
wow,
and
that's great.
we stopped there, and what I stopped specifically for was they sell bacon ends. Do you know what bacon ends are?
Yeah, yeah, the trimmings.
The trimmings, yeah. So when they bacon is in a it comes in a big slab, and then they slice it to order, and at the very end of it it gets really hard to slice, and they have a chunk left, and they take all those chunks and they cut them into basically cubes. It comes as, and it's a little bit cheaper than regular bacon, but it's not in nice strips.
Right, right.
And so what I did with it, what I do with it is I fry it up, and then pour off some of the oil and add some onions to it. And yesterday I threw the young garlic in there with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mix it in with mashed potatoes. So you get this great garlic,
Wow.
onion, giant chunks of bacon in your mashed potato. You don't want to eat that every week, but
No.
it was good.
We had last night, we went up to the camp and we had, what are those little plants that have real spiny stems that hurt your hands when you grab onto them?
I don't know. Raspberries?
Anyway, we'll forget about that part. But we had a salad, and the salad had some different greens, but also had violets in them. And they had used prosciutto, but they just fried up little squares or little lardons of pork and tossed it into the salad. And it was a really neat complement to there's a bitterness of the greens and the sweetness of the salad dressing. And then you had that kind of brined, smoky, porky taste as well. But it wasn't overwhelming. It was just like little quarter-inch chips, little almost like bacon bits, but done really well. Um, so yeah, I think just the little not pork as a main ingredient, but pork as a and flavor and addition, I think is great. And a lot of cuisines use meat that way. It's not the main protein; it's actually a flavor in a dish.
Right. And because you get all the smoke and all that in there as well, so it's good. That
Oh.
you mentioned that there were violets in it.
Yeah, you can. The violet flowers are edible, and they have a neat little taste. And like daylily flowers are edible, nasturtium flowers are edible, and they look beautiful in the salad. When you bring the salad to the table and it has like these little neat colors on them, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to last week where we were talking about the edible flowers. So I
Oh
mentioned.
yeah, nettles is what we had. We had nettle pesto, and it was okay. It wasn't great, but you can eat nettles.
Okay, you could eat them, but maybe you shouldn't.
So you were at the meat market, and so we have mashed potatoes, decadent mashed potatoes.
Oh yeah, they were great, and I also cooked up the free range chicken that I purchased from the Egg People, and so it was a real nice dinner.
Now I want
So
bacon.
yeah, all mine's gone. So on to the next thing. I had a couple comments and questions about the caramel strawberry episode.
Oh yeah, Jaden's recipe from steamykitchen.com. Yeah.
Okay, so I know you've done this before, but have you ever been like, maybe you've got a razor blade out and you're cutting some cardboard or drywall, and you miss a little bit, and the instant you do it, you cut yourself, and you think, why was I doing it? Why was I cutting toward myself? Why did I do that dumb thing? I can't believe I just did that. Have you ever had that?
Oh yeah, I've cut my tip of my thumb off that way.
And for a second,
Then I
so
fainted.
did you have the same reaction when you put the caramel in your mouth just to taste it while doing an episode?
I'm a sweetaholic. If you give me a box of Mint Milano cookies, a pack, I'll eat them all. So if there's something sweet in front of me, I throw it in my mouth. So I'm sorry.
That or peanut butter. I just thought that was great. That it was like, okay, so we're doing garden fork, and here's this caramel, and
Yeah, I just realized we're going to shoot an episode today, and I haven't shaved in a couple days, and I thought, maybe I should just clean up my act a little bit here.
it'd be the grizzled cook.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Some people like that, but
Okay, so then another observation: your microwave
yep.
is up on top of your fridge.
Is that okay?
Well, I've met Lynn, and she's tiny. Does she use your microwave ever?
A little. I'm the cook. She doesn't. The only reason she's in the kitchen is to feed the dogs. Um, yeah, she can reach out. I mean, she might reheat her coffee, but she's like a lot of people that puts the coffee in there and presses the button and then forgets about it for a day. You know.
Yeah.
Did everyone like all the decorations on a refrigerator? People should like send in their photos of their refrigerator. So we always have pictures of our friends' kids or the horses or the dogs, and a lot of our some of our neighbors will go visit Lynn's horse, and their children draw pictures of the horse and then bring them to us. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
Yeah. But the caramel strawberries were super simple and really good. And the caramel, I guess we'll call it a sauce, had a little bit of cream in it. You melt the caramel squares in the microwave, and be careful because microwaves have different power ratings, I guess. It's better to underdo it than overdo it. But she put sea salt in there, and it had, again, we're talking about those contrasts of taste. It had the sweetness of the caramel, but also had a saltiness on your tongue, which is similar to the bacon or lardons being in the salad. And I really like that. And it's extended to the point where there's this chocolate we buy called Mast Brothers chocolate, and it has a dark chocolate with sea salt in it, and it has that same kind of play, which I like. I mean, I love salt anyway. So
I love the sweet and salty. We get the chocolate covered pretzels,
yep.
and yeah, and I'm like a puppy. I will eat until I'm sick.
Yeah. This
My
is the
wife is
same
not.
pretzels that got stuck under the recliner.
No, different pretzel.
But
So
my thing about the caramel strawberries is it's a really good one for kids. I mean, that once you heat up the caramel, it cools down a bit, but that's something to get kids involved. It'll keep them busy.
right, and my last observation was normally when people are cooking or watching a cooking show, they taste something and they never go, well, ew, they never say that. But normally they smile and say, oh yeah, that's really, really good. But you demonstrated it. Did you finish all three before you signed off?
Yeah.
You cleared the plate. At one point, we were just watching you eat.
And then you know what Lynn does? I had to edit it out, but she's an amateur camera operator, but she like shoves the camera into my face so it looks like a walrus eating strawberries. And because I have the little goatee and the mustache thing. And so that's this ugly smile. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that word. I've been really good about that. Right there in the middle of. So anyway, we removed that part of it. But yeah, they were good, and it's pretty simple to make. You buy a box of strawberries, a carton of strawberries, a bag of caramels. You won't use all the caramels, by the way. So, and some sticks. You could use the popsicle sticks or the bamboo sticks or whatever. I found our bamboo skewers afterward. So,
All right, we'll be back with more Garden Fork after this. Garden Fork is brought to you by Brushy Mountain Bee Farm. Visit their website, brushymountainbeefarm.com, and by Allison House, allisonhouse.com. You're listening to Garden Fork Radio. It's cooking, gardening, and other fun stuff. Welcome back.
Now, this is a quick one. You mentioned, I don't remember, it was last week or the week before, you said dull knives are dangerous.
yes.
Some people might think, well, they're dull. Why? They won't cut you as much, right?
They will cut you, and the cut will be rougher. So, because you're going to try too hard, and the knife will slip.
Right. So
It's like cutting an onion is a perfect example because when you need to have a very sharp knife to break the surface of the onion and cut through it, if you hit the top of the onion and you're holding the onion with the other hand, it's going to slip and a very good chance of hitting your hand.
right. So dull knives are sharp. They're still sharp enough to cut you. It's just you have to start pushing.
Yes.
You work harder, and now a better chance of you putting too much weight into it and then slipping and bang, you got a serious cut.
Yes, and your flesh is much easier to cut than a onion or a piece of steak. So, or a
Sure.
carrot.
Take the tip of your thumb right off.
This is a tangent for Erica, of course, but I did an interview that's going to be coming up on our show with Erica Wides, who is a chef and teacher in New York City, and we talk about knife sharpening and using a steel and kind of had a professional chef's viewpoint on that. So we will have that. That'll be like a bonus episode after this episode, I think. I think we want to like feed a couple more in there as far as shows go. So that'll be a bonus episode coming up. It was a really neat interview.
We have a lot of notes here. I want to keep going, but let's change subjects a little bit. Let's go
Okay.
to handyman.
All right.
Sharpen your lawnmower blades.
Yeah. Um, Lynn is the lawnmower lady. I've got her convinced that it's exercise. So, and we have push mowers. And she said, well, I said, what do you want me to do? She goes, oh, well, you could get the lawnmowers out. So I put the lawnmowers on their side. You find out where the gas cap is on your lawnmower and you tilt so that that side of the mower is pointed up. So in other words, when you tilt your mower, you don't want the gas cap on the bottom because gas can come out. So you flip your mower over on its side, and I looked at the blades, and they were duller than butter knives, duller than dull butter knives. And I knew they would be dull, but I didn't realize how dull they were. So I removed them and sharpened them on the vise with a sharpener. And we did a video about this, how to sharpen your lawnmower blades on garden fork. And it makes a world of difference because when you cut your lawn with a dull blade, you're shredding the blades of grass, which um, is bad for the grass in a number of ways. It's a more shredded cut, so the plant has a harder time recuperating from that than a clean cut, and the lawn doesn't look as good. So
Right? It cuts unevenly, right?
yeah, yeah. Ideally we would all have electric mowers or push mowers. Just hand push mowers, because lawnmowers are actually they're more polluting than automobiles, really, except the California ones, I think. But just tilt your mower to the side. You can sharpen the blades while they're on the mower, or you can take the blades off and sharpen them in a vise. There's a couple of lawnmower blade sharpening devices that they sell at the tool store, and we all like the tool store. You just put it on your drill and you go, and just make sure that the blade is fairly balanced before you put it back on the mower.
And clean your deck, right?
Clean your deck after every mow, because the deck is actually what rots out. Because the grass gets clumped up on there, it holds the moisture against the metal of the deck, and then all of a sudden your mower engine falls out of the lawnmower. The engine will last longer than the deck will if you don't clean it. And it only takes a couple minutes to scrape it off. Some mowers have a hose attachment. You click the hose onto it and run the mower, and it swirls off all the grass, I guess. Have you
And also,
sharpened your blade?
I have not sharpened my blade, but I don't have the amount of grass you have.
All right.
So, but I'm sure I need to sharpen mine as well. They uh, I mulch. I don't bag at all.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, and if it's all mucked up underneath, then it doesn't mulch as well. Also,
There
because it
you go.
requires that special airflow of flipping the grass clippings up in the air, and then it chops and chops and chops. And if it's all dirty under there, it doesn't do a good job with that either.
Yeah,
And you say your mower started right up.
it did. And this is because everyone has done what I suggested. And in the fall, you put gas stabilizer in the lawnmower gas tank. So basically, what you do is you buy gas stabilizer at your garden store, and you mix it under the directions say, I think, so many ounces per gallon. Shake it up and pour it in the gas tank, and then run the mower for a while. I run gas stabilizer 12 months out of the year in all my small engines because the gas that they formulate these days, my lawnmower repair guy, small engine guy, said the gas ruins the carburetors on small engines. So both my lawnmowers started up on the first pull after being dormant for 3, 4 months. I thought that was pretty cool.
There you go, testimonial.
Yeah.
And are they in a heated area, or are they just out in a shed or something?
They're just in the shed. They're just, just sitting there.
Yeah. So what this kind of ties into something I had a dog poop conundrum.
Okay.
In the spring, I always wait 1 or 2 weeks too long to start cutting the grass. It just gets crazy shaggy, and then we go, all right, fine, I'll start cutting the grass.
Yeah.
But it's crazy shaggy, and the dogs have been out there for a while, and it gets to the point where it's hard to find the dog poop out there.
Yeah.
Trying to be delicate with it, but yeah, it's hard to find. So, do I mow the grass and take the chance of unleashing whatever gets unleashed when you hit dog poop with a lawnmower, or cut once high and then try to go over it again and find it?
I just run over it with the mower. Poop happens. It's just chewed up food.
Yeah.
People
I'll
get
tell you.
all people get all weird about. They love food and they love putting it in their mouths, but when it comes out of an animal's or person's body, it's all of a sudden this bad thing, and it's like It's just chewed up food. And you're gonna clean your mower when you're done anyway. Just hit the deck, the underneath side with a hose, and it'll break down on your lawn. You don't want to put animal poop in your compost because it can have some protozoans or whatever that don't go well. You don't want to put that stuff in your garden. But letting it break down on the lawn, I think is just fine.
Well, I'll tell you what I did.
Okay.
I sent my teenagers out there.
Oh,
My daughter cleaned it up, and her boyfriend mowed the grass. And
even better.
yeah, and I just sat in the garage looking at my pinball machine.
Good for you. That's even better than the Eric view.
Yeah, so that worked out. That worked out fine. I don't know what they hit. I didn't ask.
Another reason to have kids.
That's right.
My
So
dad had us work every weekend. I mean, I am thankful for that now, but every weekend there was a project, and we didn't get to go out and play until we were done doing the project.
yeah. So bees, you reversed the supers.
Yeah, we went. We checked. Long story short, bees through the winter, as they're eating all the food in the hive, they move from the bottom of the hive to the top of the hive, and the hive is made up of boxes called supers. And what you do in the spring is the bees are in the top of the hive, and they're going to hit the ceiling, and they're going to want to swarm because they think, oh, we're out of space. So what you do is you take the top box and you put it on the bottom, and the bottom box you put on the top. So then they have space to move up through again. And it's a relatively simple process, but it's pretty cool because it's probably the first time you're opening your hive for the season. And it doesn't take too long, but we reverse the supers on one of the hives, and it worked out really well. And they're like going like gangbusters now. They're bringing in a ton of pollen. Pretty neat.
And you said you found honey. You had more than you expected?
I was really surprised at that, but there's like fresh honey already in the hive, and it's just kind of testament to where they are. We moved the other hive down the Maple Knoll farm as well, which we just made a video about for this week, and it's such a great bounty of food source for bees down there. It's just these big fields, and they're already making honey. So I thought it was, and it's late April. I was really surprised by that. And then I accidentally bonked one of the frames and broke open the beeswax that's holding the honey in, so we got to sample some of it, and it had this like vanilla taste to it. It was really cool.
Oh, wow, neat.
I'll send you some this year. I'll send you some.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, and I actually have something I'm going to send you real soon, too. We'll talk about that. It's something I want to do live on the show. Live recorded.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's a little
thank,
weird.
thank you, Mike. I'll be sure to give you my address.
The so it's like a bee treadmill then, right? You take the top and move it to the bottom,
Yeah.
and then you just keep doing that.
A beehive, what you're basically doing is inducing the bees to produce more honey than they really need. Because they need X amount to get through the winter, and you're kind of inducing them to create more that you're going to take off and use as food. I mean, it's not bad for the bees, but you're creating a slightly artificial environment for them, putting them in these boxes and everything. And but they certainly can do it. I mean, they're just going like gangbusters. So, and then they're out there pollinating plants, which is what we need. That's what the world needs.
Yeah. Now there's a contingent of people that go out and find wild mushrooms
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the woods. Does anyone do wild honey? Is that a thing?
I don't know. Um, Usually, hives that are out in the wild are in hollow trees, and so you would have to cut the tree open. There are some people that will actually, Elise from Simply Recipes had a beehive in the wall of her home, and she was just putting that on Twitter yesterday. And in that situation, whoever comes to remove the bees, they may if you're going to save the bees, you keep some of the honey and the comb and you put it in a box, and there's a way to do that. But you could keep some of that honey. You could. I don't, but I've never heard of people wild foraging for honey. The Indians, Native Americans used to do that. I mean, that's it's gone back millennia that they would do that actually.
And Winnie the Pooh,
Yeah, yeah, that's all. Bears don't really like the honey. They like the
the larva,
the
right?
larva. Yeah,
Yeah, the protein.
yeah.
So let's see here. It's next on our list. Oh, what? local weather, weatherunderground.com.
Weather Underground, if you want to find out kind of is it called the macro or microclimate around you?
The microclimate,
The
I think it.
microclimate, like I was wondering about this morning, I got up and I saw rain clouds and I was like, I got to get down to take care of the bees before it rains. And Lynn said, it's not going to rain all day. And so we used Weather Underground to check the local temperature. And I noticed that the barometer was rising because actually we have our weather station right here, which is hooked up to Weather Underground. But from other stations nearby, I could see the barometer rising and the cloud cover clearing. So that was kind of a neat way of using local area weather. And no matter what time you're in, just type in your name of your town, and it'll show the nearby weather stations. I find it fascinating, and you can use it
And
on your smartphone too.
and these are weather stations of hobbyists in the area, right?
Yeah, and they are a lot of them are hooked up to Weather Underground, and you can also hook them up to a civilian uh, component of the weather.gov site. And so the meteorologists will use your weather station as part of their data, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't like it on the 10 o'clock news, or I think you guys have it at 11, right? Uh, I always find it fun when they name your town, and I always wonder about that. Do they have a traveling weather station? But no, it's these guys, right?
Yeah, the weather guys on TV they use Weather Underground. They'll check out local stuff. A
Now, do
lot
you
of
know?
hmm?
I was gonna say, do you know when people? Is there a hit counter on your station or anything like that?
I don't I maybe Weather Underground has stats. I don't know. I really don't know.
Because I'm sure that's the other thing that somebody puts a weather station, goes through trouble putting it online and stuff. They get a kick out of people actually going there and looking at
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just kind of I'm speechless. So
it. So Tyler, you made a comment in the last show,
yeah,
and
I know.
you said Tyler, he's got his cold frame temperature set up online, and Tyler's not a technical genius. Well, Tyler kind of is a technical genius. You don't have to be a technical genius to do what he did, but I've worked with the guy, and I don't want to sell him short. He's a smart guy.
Well, my point there was that anyone could do what Tyler did, and okay, Tyler is a technical genius. Full disclosure. In addition to being a Garden Fork sponsor, um, but what I meant, and I kind of ramble, and what I meant to say was that you don't have to be Mr. Computer Whiz to do this kind of thing, where you can put a weather sensor in your cold frame and have a receiver either in your home or hook it up to the internet. It's just the weather geek in me. I have a sensor in my greenhouse, which is a passive greenhouse. We don't have a heater in there and anything. And I check it during the day. Like right now, it's 76 degrees outside. In the greenhouse, it's 95 degrees.
Oh wow.
But in the evening and at night, it is usually in the greenhouse 5 degrees warmer than the outside air. So that's kind of a neat way of, first of all, starting plants earlier because it's so darn hot in the during the day, but also it keeps some things from freezing in the cool weather.
Yeah, there was this really neat show about living off the grid. It was something that I don't know if it was on BBC or something. There was a family, and one of the guys was an engineer, and they were going to get off the grid. And one of the things that they had done was they built a greenhouse, and then they dug a hole in the ground and filled it. I think it was with broken glass. And during the day, with that 95-degree temperature, they would pump air down into the glass,
Huh.
and the glass would get hot. And then when the sun went down and it cooled off, they would then blow air over the glass and back up into the greenhouse. And
Wow.
so that's the way they would store their heat. And it was fascinating.
Is that called a heat sink?
I, I a heat sink pulls heat away from things. I'm not sure what
Okay.
they call that, but yeah, it's something like that.
Heat
So
storage.
heat storage, yeah, that's one of the things when they're talking about doing solar energy out in the desert. Well, what do you do when the sun goes down?
Yeah.
Well, it's not all solar panels. They'll take a bunch of mirrors and shine it at a tower filled with water, and it'll boil that water. It'll get it super hot, and then they pump that water underground. They pump it into holding tanks that hold on to that heat. And when the sun goes down, then they continue to use that water to to create electricity. It's pretty neat. It's the same concept.
Could you also use rocks instead of broken glass? I mean, because I've known I've seen drawings where people store the heat in a basement in a big container that has rocks in it as well.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not. I think they used glass because it was a way of recycling.
Yep, yep.
They were using broken bottles and stuff from the bar up the street. I think that's why they did glass. But there's a whole home design. I read this book back when I wanted to get off. Oh, I still want to get off the grid, but before I realized, well, I'd have to sell everything. Um, there's this home design where you basically have a concrete wall facing south, and the sun warms it up during the day,
Right.
and then in the evening it cools off during the evening, and it keeps your house a constant temperature. Then in the morning, when it's getting warm again, the wall is cooler, and so it keeps the house cool during the day. It just levels out the temperatures.
Yeah, I think part of that is just kind of passive. Like if you have really thick walls, like a 2 foot wall or a 3 foot wall, that kind of holds it moderates the temperature whether it's going up or down. So it's kind of an extension of that. But I've also seen people that have barrels of water in their greenhouse, and then that heats up during the day, and then it, in a passive way, X gives off heat in the evening and at night. So
Right. Boy, have we gone off on a tangent.
yeah, that's okay. I think people like that sometimes.
So let's see. How long have we been doing this? We're doing all right.
Yeah, do
Um,
you have to go? Are you okay to stay?
no, 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 no. Just making sure that we don't talk for 3 hours and not realize it. I can talk all morning. Um, the garden report. Do you have a garden report for us?
Yeah, I made this command decision to dig out all the chive plants in my garden because they're taking over. They're a friend of mine is a big advocate of lining all your raised beds with alliums, onion family plants, be it garlic or chives or onions, and he says it keeps the bad bugs away. So I put chives in the corners of each of my raised beds, but it's to the point now where they're kind of taking over the bed. And I thought, I don't really have that bad of a bug situation anyway. So I've dug them up. I'm going to put one on the roof in New York. I'm going to put one in our herb bed, and the rest I'm going to give away. So, and I'm going to put in beans this week. We put in some sunflower seeds, and I put in some squash, some winter squash. And my neighbor came over, who was a farm expert. He used to have a farm, and he said it's still too cold to plant squash seeds. So I'm going to start some more seeds, squash seeds, in a uh, tray in the greenhouse, and we're going to also start pumpkins.
Ooh, the giant. Are you gonna try to do the Eric 400-pound pumpkin?
No, I tried a couple of those, and they kind of get big, and then they sit in your lawn, and then you got to put them somewhere. So
Now what do you?
we'd like to show pumpkins, just a little Halloween pumpkins and then some sugar pumpkins. My big thing now is to grow winter squash to have some food stored. The whole idea of being able to just go down to your basement and pull a winter squash out, in the fall or in the winter instead of going to the store and buying one that has come from, the southern states. That's just pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat. I have my 3 tomato plants I have to put in the ground, and I'll probably start planting my corn. Uh, See how that does. The Now one thing with planting tomatoes, I don't know if everyone knows this. I learned this I think 2 years ago, but when you buy your tomato plant, when you put it in the ground, you almost bury it completely
Yes.
because it makes for stronger roots. Is that right? Because roots will shoot out from the stems then at that point.
Yeah, any part of the stem that is contacting soil will send out roots. So you have it in a little 2 inch pot, let's see, and then the thing is 6 inches high. The plant is 6 inches high. You pinch off the bottom 4 inches of leaves and sink that thing down. Dig a deeper hole, put it way down there, and mound the soil around it. And I guess I should take some pictures of that one day. But every year when I pull mine out, you can see where the original root ball was, and then you can see
Hmm.
above it the roots that grew out. And in the cooler weather, the tomato plant is going to be focusing on growing roots anyway. You're not going to see a lot of top leaf growth right away when you plant your stuff. It's working on the root system at first. And that it just goes boom. It also helps because the roots are lower in the ground, so if the top of your soil dries out, it can still pull moisture from the deeper depths of your garden because that part's probably still moist.
Yeah. Now the farmer I bought my tomato plants from, he said it's a little early. You might have to cover them. We still might get a frost. I wanted to tell him that Tyler assured me that we would not see another frost, but
So it's
the
on Tyler then, yeah.
it's on Tyler. Oh yeah, yeah. He's responsible for my tomato plants. But the guy said just cover them up, and you don't even have to cover them up with much. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Tyler, I was watching him through Twitter and Facebook about his trip going storm chasing, and I don't know if they got too many storms, but it sounded like just kind of a ruse to visit a lot of barbecue places. Because every night he's like, "Oh, we picked this barbecue place," and I'm like, "You're just on a road trip, you know?"
I am in.
So we'll have to
That
talk to him
sounds
about
great.
that.
All right, we'll be back with more Garden Fork after this. Garden Fork is brought to you by Brushy Mountain Bee Farm. Visit their website, brushymountainbeefarm.com, and by Allison House, allisonhouse.com. You're listening to Garden Fork Radio. It's cooking, gardening, and other fun stuff. Welcome back.
Okay, viewer mail.
Oh, yeah, we have a number of them. I guess you
I,
picked one out here.
I have two of them here, and we could pick one of them. We were called out, sort of, on one of them, and I didn't have an answer for him right away.
Is that
Do you want
from Jack
this?
about the CFLs?
Yes.
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah.
So this is from a gentleman named Jack. He says, I wonder if the CFLs, compact fluorescent bulbs, are. I wonder if the CFLs are supposed to last 10 years or so. If the CFLs are supposed to last 10 years or so, how do you have a box full to recycle? Because I said I have a box full to recycle, and you can take them to True Value or IKEA or stores like that. Because they don't seem to last much longer. Okay. You want to read this? Because I can't.
Yeah. It's he worded it a little bit funny, but I wonder if the CFLs are supposed to last 10 years or so, how do you have a full box to recycle? Because they don't seem to last much longer, I still do not like them over incandescents. In all reality, LEDs are probably the better way to go, at least on my opinion. The problem is cost, but that was the CFL complaint too. LEDs actually do last longer too. Sent from his iPod. So, at first I didn't have an answer. I have the same question, and I have a box full of them, but it's taken me 4 or 5 years. And the box is a shoe box, and there's 8 in there. It's not like I have a big shipping crate full of CFLs.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like a shoebox full of a number of fluorescents. Yeah.
Yeah, and originally I used to buy CFLs when they used to cost $15 a piece to put out in my light post outside.
Right.
And I liked the fact that it saved electricity, but also the fact that I didn't have to go out there and change the bulb every 2 months
Yes.
because they really, really did last a long time. And so I did some reading on this to answer the question. And like anything, the first ones to come out were really good, made by Philips and GE and other top end companies. But now everybody's making them. And there are some cheaper ones out there that don't quite last as long. They're still up at like 5,000-6,000 hours, but they're not at the 10 or 15 that some of them promise.
Hmm.
So I think when you're buying CFLs, buy the quality ones. And this was a real world green thing at one point where it was buy quality tools rather than
Yeah.
buying the same screwdriver over 3 times. Buy the good one and just buy it once.
Totally.
Uh, this is the same thing. You see the CFLs and go, wow, these things are normally expensive, but I can buy 3 of them for $2. Sometimes the local electric companies will subsidize that,
Yep.
and they're good bulbs. Sometimes it's not. You buy them at the dollar store, and I don't know where they come from, but it's a crapshoot. Those last a long time too, sometimes, but on average, I think they last not quite as long as the top brand ones. I have CFLs that are in my kitchen I put in when I moved in, and that was 7 or 8 years ago. They do last longer.
Yeah. The thing is, Compact compact fluorescents will last longer if they're on kept on for long periods of time. If you're gonna say go in your basement and you flip on the light switch, you go down the basement, you come back in 2 minutes and flip it off, that reduces the lifespan of a compact fluorescent because the ballast has to fire up first. And it takes the most energy to fire up the ballast. And if you keep on flipping that light switch on and off for short periods, the compact fluorescent will wear out much faster. I've read where they suggest that if you're going to be using a light for more than 15 minutes, you can use a compact fluorescent. If it's just like a little closet light and you're just going to turn it on and then turn it off, you should use an incandescent bulb. And
Yeah.
they do last longer. The incandescent bulbs, I in New York, I live in an apartment in a brownstone, and the common hallways, the lights are on 24/7, and I'm kind of the default fix-it guy. And when we had incandescent bulbs in the hallway, they would go out every month or so because the lights are on 24/7. When I switched to compact fluorescents, they're on for, it can be like 9 months at a time, but they're on 24/7, so they might seem like they're burning out fast as opposed to the 10 years they're supposed to last. But I think that 10-year quote is based on household use where you turn that light on just in the evenings for 3 or 4 hours. So, I mean,
Right.
sorry, but I do agree that LEDs are really the way to go, but they are in their kind of nascent stages right now, and they're quite expensive. They'll last really long time. The upfront cost is quite high, but compared to having to buy a incandescent bulb every 3 months, over time that incandescent bulbs are going to cost more. Plus, you're pumping more mercury into the air with an incandescent bulb every time. I have yet to see LED bulbs in a home situation. I've seen them at the store, and I've seen them turned on, but I've never seen them like, oh, how's this light look in the evening in my living room here. But
Right.
I think that technology is growing leaps and bounds every couple of months.
Yeah, the thing that's neat about the LEDs is they can mix and match the colors, and they can make it so you can get just about any quality color and warmth out of the bulb. Also, I think some of them you can actually just switch the color. You can change it to, now my room is blue.
Yeah, yeah, you can change the color temperature of these things, which I think is pretty cool.
Here's a way to break into the LEDs, and I was going to mention this a couple weeks ago. Night lights. They take almost no. I forgot what the number was. It was ridiculously low. It costs like 5 cents a year for these night lights, and I have a few of them. I actually have them in my basement. I walk around with the lights off all the time, and
So do
they
I.
just, yeah, they guide me around. Or you have one in the bathroom, so you don't have to turn on the light in the middle of the night. And those, I think I paid $6 for a pair of them, and I'm hoping they last me a good long time.
Yeah, I haven't thought of that idea, but that's actually very good because a lot of times I run into the basement to get a big pot or something, and I don't want to turn on the lights because it's like when you turn on the light switch, six compact fluorescents fire up. So that's actually a really good idea. You get those little LED kind of night lights down there, and they'll run for a million years.
Yeah, they go for a long time. They don't suffer from the same problems of turning them on and off.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that was actually an episode of MythBusters where they did the "Are you better off leaving them on?" Like I forgot what it was. Because everything has surge power when you first turn it on.
Hmm.
It grabs a bunch of power, and it had to do with incandescents and fluorescent light fixtures. And are you better off just leaving? Do you use more power in the first 15 seconds? And one of the tests they did was just flipping them on and off, on and off, on and off. And in a matter of, I think, weeks, every bulb failed except for the LEDs. They just went on and on and on.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I like those MythBusters guys. Should I, Mike? Should we like be the MythBusters? Should you wear the beret, and I'll be kind of the guy with the pasty skin? And they're not gonna like that we said that.
No.
But you don't have the goatee. I have the goatee, so maybe I should wear the beret.
Yeah, I think that would work better. And I'll be the goofy one.
No, I'm the goof.
Yeah, that's the problem. We're both the goofy one.
What
So,
was the other viewer mail that you selected?
No Need Bread from
Yeah,
Lynn.
her name is Lynn, and I think she's building a website. It's called sfbaygourmet.com. I don't think it's built yet.
It says, "Hi, Eric. First, I'd like to tell you that I'm really enjoying your show." And we'll just reflect on that for a moment.
Yeah.
I found it exploring iTunes. I'm into a lot of the same things. I love to cook, keep bees and chickens, a large vegetable garden. I'm pretty handy, interested in local sustainable products, and I also knit and make soap. Oh, they had the soap makers at the. We love that stuff. The homemade soap. It's great. Okay. Um, I'd like to share with you my recipe for no knead bread and a few hints. I really think this is about as equal to an artisan bread as you can get. I'm enclosing a picture of a recent loaf, and I snipped out the recipe. You will have to post that.
Right, right.
And she says, I hope you give it a try. Feel free to share the recipe, Lynn.
Well, I thought this was interesting because this recipe is similar to the one that you had sent me that was in the Cook's Illustrated guys, but she suggests if you want like a sourdough um, taste to it, to add a quarter teaspoon of citric acid to the dough ingredients, which is what vitamin C is. So you could buy powdered vitamin C at the vitamin store, and that's citric acid. So I thought that was really cool. And she puts 3 ounces of a Pilsner and 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And we'll post the recipe on this episode, and we'll also put it in the recipe section of the site. What do you think?
I think it's neat. That bread always looks so great. I need to make make some time to make more bread.
Yeah, there's that time thing, man.
Yeah, because in the part of that I snipped out, and of course I don't have it handy. Um, there was a point where you had to let it sit for 10 or 16 hours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that part. Of course, you're not doing anything to it, but that means you got to think ahead, and I never do.
Yeah, we're very similar that way.
But the citric acid is sour salt. If you've ever seen that,
Oh, okay.
if you go in a lot of like in the kosher section of your store, you'll find sour salt,
Oh,
and yeah, and that's citric acid. Well, I know that because we use that for mad science. We do some citric acid recipes, and when we don't have our big 5 pound bag of it, we have to run out and get sour salt. That's just pure
all
citric
right.
acid.
Yeah, in the photo that she enclosed, it looks like the bread has a bit of a glaze on it. And from what I understand, you can use egg white or water with a little sugar or milk as different glazes. And then it just looks like a really pretty loaf.
Well, butter will do that too. I don't want it shining up.
Yeah, we could probably use bacon fat too. And yeah, we'll put bacon in
That
every dish.
Yeah, that was one thing I left out from earlier. When I was making the mashed potatoes, I instead of butter, I used the bacon fat,
I
which
think
gave
in moderation that's okay.
yeah, it wasn't a bunch, but yeah, I just because I think it really got the flavor. I sent you an email about this, and you didn't send a comment one way or the other, but I want to do a bacon episode.
Oh yes, we should. I'm sorry. I did not mean to not
I wasn't sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, the I have I don't know 6 or 8 different recipes that I like to put bacon in. That's unusual.
All
And
right.
some I'm not proud of, but I'm going to mention them anyway. Kind of have a funny story. I had my blog up for a while, and it was just one my friends came to look at. And um, one year, I got the privilege of being able to go out to Wrigley Field and um, field some fly balls and stuff. We got to stand out on the field,
Cool.
me and some people from the company. And so, yeah, I got to touch the ivy, and I've caught 3 fly balls in center field of Wrigley Field. It's not many people get to do that.
No.
And one picture was of me sitting in the dugout. And there was a controversy about renaming Wrigley Field to something else, to having sponsors come and buy the naming rights to the field. And there was a big hullabaloo. And I had this picture of me sitting in the dugout, and it was there were sponsor names all over the inside of the dugout. And a guy who was a Sox fan, and if you know anything about baseball, Sox fans and Cubs fans in Chicago, there's the rivalry across the
Yes,
town.
there is some tension there.
Yeah, so a Sox fan found it, and he used my picture as an example of a dumb Cubs fan who was getting all bent out of shape about the sponsors when look at all the sponsorship that's already there.
Oh,
So here's this picture of me up on his website. And I thought it was the way I found it was looking at my blog. This one picture started getting a lot of hits, and it told me who was linking to it.
yeah.
So I was able to go and I found it. And what he had done was he didn't take the picture and put it up on his website. He linked back to mine
Right, he was pulling the image URL from your server.
from my server and put it up on his. So that meant I had control over what picture got put up there.
Oh, wow.
So at first I changed it to something that it wasn't, it was pretty childish. and yeah, there was a guy in a Speedo involved and stuff. And I put that up at first and I thought, no, this is a little too over the top. And so there's a famous picture of Ozzie Guillen. I think he's kissing one of his sons after they had won the World Series.
Uh-huh.
But they're both in Sox uniforms, and it just looks like a couple of baseball players making out. So I put that up there, and I sent the guy an email, and I said, it's considered bad form to do this. You shouldn't link to other people's pictures, especially without telling them. I've changed it a little bit. You may want to go take a look. So he went, and within an hour, he had his changed out, and a letter of apology saying he really didn't know, and he was sorry. I said, no, there's really no harm done. It was fine. It was just a fun, Cubs fan being able to get back at the Sox fan.
That's funny. Yeah, all the pictures that go up on Garden Fork now are watermarked. So
Yeah, you see that a lot. It's sad that you have to do that because there are these searches. You go out and do a search for something, and you're like, oh, this looks like a good set of results, and it's just another website with a set of results.
Yep.
And yeah, that's so irritating.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, taking other people's work.
There is a place where you can get free photos that if you want to use them as for illustration on your website. It's called Morgue File. Morgue like the city morgue, MORGUE file.com. And it is a free site, and people that just want to share their photos upload them and tag them with different things. Like I needed one for thunderstorms to illustrate the Garden Fork radio with Tyler. So I went to Morgue File and I downloaded the picture, and all they ask is that you link back to Morgue File and give them credit. You can also give them a donation through PayPal, and I think I should really do that because I've used a lot of their photos. And they also have a pay option as well. They have another set of photos that are of a higher quality where you would pay for them. You'd pay a certain usage fee, and they have that option as well. But I just think that if you're going to use someone's stuff, you should ask first. They'll more than likely say yes. They just want to be credited, and I just think that's right. That's the Eric view on that. But I don't want to hinder you at all from using the web. And on Flickr, you can, if you want to share your photos on Flickr with people, you can set whether the photos are copyrighted or whether they use a Creative Commons license. And I'm not an expert on Creative Commons, but it allows other people to use your photo, and you set the limitations. You can say you can use it for personal use. You can't use it to profit from it. These little icons that go along with Creative Commons. And I think that's pretty cool. So I also use photos from Flickr that have a Creative Commons license, and then we credit that person on the site. And it might help that people find out more about that person and their photography.
Yeah. So we're at an hour, and
Oh,
we haven't covered sous vide stuff, grilling season, laminate flooring, sump pumps. So these are a tree swing. There's a lot of stuff that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks.
yeah, we learned about a beer cooler sous vide method, and I'm just learning about sous vide. I thought it was sous vide, but it's a way of low and slow temperature cooking of meats and foods in a vacuum pack seal in a bath of water. And the high-end restaurants use this. And Monica, who is a contributor to the kitchen sink on our site and just wrote a book review about the 6 o'clock scramble book on the site, she works in the meat industry and she knows a lot about this. And we're going to get her hooked up on Skype, and she's going to come on next week and talk about that.
Yeah, she sent me an email. She wants to get together. Monica, I'm sorry. I'll get right back to you.
She listens to the show and then sends me comments. So we're going to put her on. She was on a while back. She and I just did a one-on-one a while ago, but she's got a lot of energy. I like her. So, all right, so that we ought to call it a day. That's like an hour there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Again, if you want to link to us, it's gardenfork.tv. You can find us on Twitter. It's gardenforktv, all one word. We're on Facebook. If you want to fan us on Facebook, search for Garden Fork. I'm using my personal Facebook page to stay in touch with friends more now, and I'm flattered people want to friend me, but I'd rather you fan us on the Garden Fork site, because I'm just trying to keep part of my life away from the internet there a little bit. Or you can sign up for our email list. Send us an email at news@gardenfork.tv, or there's a link on our site on the top. Have I forgotten anything else, Mike?
No, I think that's it.
If you want to send email to Mike, you can send it care of me, and then we're going to set up Mike with an email address as well. So
Here we go.
all right, Mike, thanks for all your work. You did all the work once again here, so thanks for doing that.
I need to come up with a good sign off. I always just say bye. I need wee or something on the way out.
All right.
You make it a good day. That's good, but that's yours.
I want to point out I did not make fun of your pinball at all this time.
But you wanted to.
No. I just want everyone to know that I'm making that effort.
It's all in good fun. I love it.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later.
Yeah. Wee.